Thank you so much for having me tonight. I appreciate you all making the time on your Thursday night to be here. So today we're going to be talking about robocalls, internet options, and data privacy, all of the things that you need to know about those topics. And my name is Zoe Husband, and I am Carbon Free Buildings Coordinator at Citizens Utility Board. So I want to give you a bit of an overview of what we'll be up to tonight. So first, I would like to tell you a little bit more about CUB and the services we provide. Then I would like to talk to you about how to reduce robocalls, how to maintain your data privacy, and then some additional contact information for you all. And then we'll take some time for questions at the end if you have any. So first, let's start with who is CUB. I know she gave a bit of an overview of Citizens Utility Board, also known as CUB, but I wanted to just break it down a little bit further for you all. So here at the Citizens Utility Board, we do represent utility ratepayers. So we represent you at places like the Illinois Commerce Commission, the Illinois General Assembly, and in the courts. The Illinois Commerce Commission actually regulates public utilities and they approve rate hike requests. So they are an important figure that we represent you in front of. We also help individuals with our hotline listed here. That's 1-800-669-5556. So at that hotline, you can reach out with any utility complaints or issues you're having, and we can help you file a complaint or guide you to the correct resources to help resolve your issue if you're not getting anywhere with the utilities. We also have a website, citizensutilityboard.org. We have a whole plethora of resources there regarding energy efficiency tips, financial assistance, information on electric vehicles, solar panels, installing rooftop solar, or participating in community solar, which is where you subscribe to solar panels not on your home. We also talk about building decarbonization, which is switching out gas appliances for their electric counterparts and how that benefits your health and the climate, etc. And it can actually save you on your utility bills. So we talk about a whole wide range of things here at CUB. Our primary goal is to conduct consumer education. We staff outreach events just like this one. We do about 400, give or take, each year. So we are busy. We're a team of 6, but we're getting out there all throughout Illinois. We also have various media and publications. We have a newsletter that you can subscribe to if you're interested to keep up with different rate hike situations and just what's going on in the state of Illinois. We also have an email called ubc@citizensutilityboard.org. So if you want to reach out to this email, you can send us your utility bill virtually, and we can send you personalized recommendations based on your utility bill to be a bit more energy efficient and save some money on your utility bills if possible. So bottom line, we advocate for affordable and sustainable energy policies in Illinois. So now I've talked about CUB, let's get into the bigger content of the presentation tonight. So let's talk about reducing robocalls. So first we have to start with the basics. What is a robocall? These are pre-recorded messages from computer-generated dialers. And typically you can tell because it does not sound like a real human being talking to you. It sounds like it's been recorded, and that's also kind of how you know that it's a robocall. And you might be wondering, are robocalls legal? They are only legal if they are not sales calls, unless they have written permission from the Federal Trade Commission. But otherwise, no sales calls for robocalls. But some other ones that are allowed would be information calls, debt collectors from or on behalf of politicians, healthcare providers. And then banks, phone carriers, and charities can leave pre-recorded messages. I know I receive pre-recorded messages when I have a medication available for pickup at the pharmacy, so something like that is allowed. So 1 out of 10 Americans are scammed each year. This adds up to $9.5 billion in losses. And this is really upsetting because it's preventable. And, at CUB, we don't want to see vulnerable consumers taken advantage of by these things because, there can be some scary things out there on the internet. So we want you to be as aware and educated and protected as possible as a consumer to avoid being scammed. So a common scam that you might hear about is called spoofing. So this is when a robocaller uses your area code or your prefix to act like they're someone who knows you personally, so like a friend or a neighbor, and they'll say that they're trying to reach you to get you to pick up. Some other common scams, people will say they're from the IRS or talk about benefits. Maybe they'll do a car protection guarantee or like the one we just mentioned, neighbor spoofing. Also, scams that are like, say yes to this. Maybe a foreign call from overseas, or an alternative supplier that wants you to sign on to their deal. So there's a lot of different things out there that might be considered a scam. So here is what to do and what not to do during a robocall. So bottom line, do not answer any questions, especially yes or no questions. So if the person is asking, can you hear me? It's just best to not respond at all and just hang up if you feel like it is a robocall. We also recommend to not answer unknown numbers because at the end of the day, if someone really urgently needs to contact you, they will leave a voicemail and you will know that it is authentic rather than a scammer. And if you do answer a robocall, hang up immediately. We've all made that mistake of probably answering a call that we didn't need to, and you can tell once they start talking to you, you're not the person they're looking for. You just have to hang up just to avoid the whole situation. And make sure that you do not call back or follow any instructions that they give you, because that is how you can get into those situations where you may get scammed. I know with certain phone providers too, it'll say scam likely when a random unknown number is calling you too. So that's kind of a good indicator that it might not be an authentic caller. So how can you stop robocalls? So some ways to reduce them. First, you can confirm that you are on the do not call list. So you can call this number listed here, 1-888-382-1222, from the phone number that you want to register, or you can go to this website here, www.donotcall.gov. You can always just use your voicemail. This is what I do. If I'm not sure if it's someone who's real who's trying to contact me, I'll just let it go to voicemail and then I'll listen to the voicemail and it'll say like, "Oh, I'm looking for Jeff for debt collection." I'm like, "Obviously that's not me." So that's how you can also kind of gauge if it's a real caller or not. You can also see what your phone can do for you. There are some great resources out there to prevent reducing robocalls that we'll talk about over the next couple slides as well. So one thing that you can do right now on your phone, if you have an Apple iPhone, you can go to your settings and choose Do Not Disturb. And then once that is green, because you selected that toggle, you can select Allow Calls From at the bottom. It's currently set to no one in this middle picture, but on the most right-hand side, you can see here. If you want to ignore all calls except for people in your contact list, instead of no one, choose all contacts. So this also applies for Android phones. So similar idea here, you click Do Not Disturb in settings at the bottom. And then once the Do Not Disturb button is blue, that means that it's on. So then you select at the bottom of the screen, Allow Exceptions. And then to ignore all calls except from your contact list, choose Contacts Only. So that's something you can do right away to help reduce unwanted callers. Another thing that you can do is ask your home phone company if they offer any free services to reduce robocalls. So with a traditional landline, if you just let it go to voicemail, telemarketers, they usually will just hang up after it goes to voicemail. They usually won't even bother leaving a message if it's not legitimate. You can also get a call blocking device where you can blacklist certain numbers, but it is important to note that some of those can cost up to $70 to $80. So it just depends on if that would be the right fit for you. And AT&T has a star 60 service, but it does have an additional cost as well, $10.99 a month, and you can block up to 10 numbers from the local area. So that is somewhat limited, but it is another resource that is out there. So when it comes to digital phones, you can use star codes. So you can go online or reach out to your provider to find out which codes work with your service. You can also utilize some other free call blocking services. These can be activated from your online account. So with AT&T Uverse, you would go to att.com. You would search for call blocking for digital phone. And then there are some additional steps down here. If you're in the My Digital Phone section, you can choose check or manage voicemail and features. And then from there, you select phone features, choose call protect, and follow the directions. So once that's on, you'll get those notifications, like I mentioned, of like scam likely when someone's calling you who might not be legitimate. With Comcast Xfinity, you can go to xfinity.com and search for call screening to access that resource as well, or call the phone number listed below. I'll pause here for a moment if anybody wants to take a picture or make note of these phone numbers. Okay, I will keep going. So for cell phones, like I was mentioning with my cell phone, the most common services all have these now integrated into their service at no additional cost, which is great. So with AT&T, it's called Call Protect. With Sprint, it's Premium Caller ID. With T-Mobile, it's Scam ID, Scam Block, and Name ID. And with Verizon, it's Call Filter. So you can also check what third-party services are available if that interests you. So these are some examples here of third-party services that can moderate or monitor the calls that are coming to your phone. So Haya Caller ID and Block is free. There's also one called Nomo Robo, which is $2 a month, or RoboKiller, which is $5 a month. You can also use Truecaller, which is free, and Umail is also free. Okay, so let's transition into your internet options, your safety, and how to maintain your data privacy. So first, it's important to choose the right option for you. So first thing we like to say is assess your needs. So think about the number of users in your home that need access to the internet. Think about the type of internet activities that you'll be doing, and then consider the budget that you have in place for yourself. Also future-proof, consider slightly higher speeds if you anticipate more usage or devices being added in the future. Definitely read reviews because customers often leave reviews for reliability and speed consistency in the area that you live, so that can give you an indicator of how effective a service is. You can also do a trial period with some providers, or they might give a money back guarantee. You would just have to read the fine print to see if that is offered with the provider that you're interested in. So let's talk a little bit about internet speed here, just to give you some reference. So for basic browsing and opening emails, that requires 1 to 5 megabits per second. And that's just a way of measuring the internet speed. If you're going to be doing HD streaming, that will require 5 to 10 megabits per second per device that's trying to HD stream. If you're into gaming or you have family members that enjoy video games, that requires 15 to 25 megabits per second for smooth play. If you want to do 4K streaming, that requires 25 to 50 megabits per second per device. And then with remote work and video calls like this one, that would require 10 to 25 megabits per second per device. And for a large household with multiple devices, so that might be multiple phones, multiple computers, TVs, that would be 100 plus megabits per second recommended for internet speed that you would need to operate conveniently and reliably. So let's talk a little bit about data caps and unlimited plans. So some providers limit your monthly data. For example, they'll limit it to 1 terabyte, I believe, after which you might face extra charges or reduced speeds. Or you can also do an unlimited plan, and the benefit here is that there are no data restrictions on the amount of data you or your family members can use that month. This is ideal for people who are doing a lot of streaming, playing a lot of video games, or just larger families, especially if multiple family members work from home. This would be a good option. So there's also this thing called throttling, which is where some providers may reduce your speed after heavy usage, even with unlimited plans. So let's compare providers here and talk about plans a little bit. So first, you need to know what's available. So check with providers to see which ones are offering service in your area. You should be able to find this doing a quick search on the internet. And consider the different speed options. So compare the speed tiers based on your household's needs, like we just mentioned before. And it's also important to note that providers may offer introductory pricing, which is where they offer lower rates for the first year, but be sure to check back year after year because there may be price increases later on, or you can inquire about this when you're speaking with the providers. Also consider the contract length and the fees of the plan that you want in the service, because some plans may require a contract or have early termination fees. There are some also additional features to consider. So some providers might charge you for a router or modems. So check if you can use your own. A modem, it enables your computer or any device plugged directly into the modem to access the internet. And then the router enables your home itself to have Wi-Fi, meaning that a computer or tablet in your home can access the internet wirelessly. So you tend to need both of those for you to be able to access the internet on a computer and then also have Wi-Fi in your home. So how do you buy a modem or a router? You can purchase them separately, or you can purchase a device that contains both. This is really just personal preference. There are also some income qualified internet programs out there that are important to touch on. So AT&T has an access program. This is a $30 per month unlimited data plan, and it's based on the maximum speed available at your address. This is up to 100 megabits per second Mbps, like I was mentioning before. So to have access to this program, you have to be located in an area served by AT&T, and you cannot have outstanding debt with the company. At least one resident has to be enrolled in the SNAP program, also known as Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or the National School Lunch Program, or the household must have a total income that is below 200% of federal poverty guidelines. So we also included the link here, att.com/internet/access/. So I will pause here for just a moment for people to write anything down if necessary. Okay, let's keep moving. Xfinity also offers various internet essentials. So they offer internet service at a speed of up to 50 megabits per second for $10 a month or up to 100 megabits per second for $30 a month. So you can see right here, we've also linked this resource, www.xfinity.com/learn/internet-service/internet-essentials. And if you're wondering, how do I qualify for internet essentials? So once again, you have to live in an area where Xfinity's internet service is available. And similarly to the other program, you have to have someone in your family participate in an assistance program, like the National School Lunch Program, housing assistance, Medicaid, SNAP, or other things. And you cannot have had Xfinity internet within the last 90 days, or else you do not qualify for this. And once again, you need to have no outstanding debt on any Comcast account that is less than 1 year old. So here are some other programs. So there's the AT&T Access, and then the RCN Internet First. There's also Spectrum Internet Assist, Xfinity Internet Essentials, like we just talked about. Lifeline has a resource, and also Chicago Connected. So I will once again just pause here for a moment for people to take a picture or write any of these down. Okay, I will go ahead and move on. So we like to recommend that you contact your internet company and take a look at your current bill to understand each line and also make note of the lines that you don't understand to make sure that you are comfortable with the service that you're being provided. If you want to cancel, we also recommend just requesting the cancellation department in general because they have the most power to offer you a better deal. So they might be able to offer you a lower price to prevent you from canceling. So that's also something to consider. And also check if you can cut down on equipment. Consider if you need the modem and router. If you don't have multiple devices in your home, then I don't think that you would need both. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk about now some internet and data privacy. This is super important in the age of the internet, as you know, there are so many different people out there asking for your personal information. So we want to provide you the best tools to keep your data safe. So let's talk about what is this? What is internet privacy and data privacy? So internet privacy, this protects your personal activities online, just making sure that your browsing habits, your searches, and any online interactions stay private. So if you're like purchasing food or clothing online, making sure that that stays private. Data privacy is similar and it focuses on safeguarding your personal information, like your name, your address, your credit card information to prevent unauthorized access and misuse. So if you're purchasing something from a clothing company online, making sure that your credit card information will not be compromised as a result. So the goal is to keep your online actions and personal information secure from any hackers, companies, or any unwanted third parties. So the first thing we like to say is strengthen your passwords. Make sure you have good password hygiene, if you will, meaning that it's up to date and you've put thought and effort into it. Don't make it easy. I am definitely guilty of this. I tend to repeat passwords sometimes in different variations, but that's not good. Don't be like me. So how do you create a strong password? Well, the first thing is it needs to be a long password if possible. Also include some character diversity, so like adding in something like an exclamation mark or a question mark that is character diversity instead of just letters or numbers. Avoid personal information if possible. It's very easy to do, the name of your first pet that you ever had, but then people can kind of guess that if they know you. So avoid personal information if ever possible. Also, avoid common words if you can, because that is easier for hackers to try and guess. And lastly, change your passwords regularly. This is another good practice that I personally am a little bit bad about, but changing your passwords regularly helps ensure that your data is being protected. So after this, you have a secure password. And if you want to write it down somewhere, that's also helpful too, just so you remember all of your different passwords. And we also want you to be able to keep your email safe. So scammers, they use a thing called phishing. This is where they trick you into disclosing personal information, such as passwords and credit card details. So this is like a bit of a scenario that you might come across. So you're checking your email inbox one morning and you see some of these following messages. So you see requests from your bank to verify your account number, or you might get a hello from an old friend. They're asking you to download an attachment of a new photo of their kids. An urgent warning from tech support that your account has been hacked and you'll lose vital information if you don't immediately respond. Or maybe it's an offer of money or donation requests after a disaster. Those are all things that you could receive that would be from scammers. So if you get emails like this, do not email your personal information if possible. Consider a backup email account. You can also join a do not email list at dmachoice.org. You can block spam. I get spam all the time at my work email, and sometimes when I check my spam folder, it'll be someone trying to impersonate my boss, saying, I need your phone number or I need this urgently, call me back at this number. And I can tell that it's not really my boss because it looks different than our emails do. So that is very real and it does happen, unfortunately. So you can also report it if you want to. So you can forward the phishing email to whoever the business or organization is that it is impersonating. You can also do this to the Federal Trade Commission at spam uce.gov, or you can report it to the Anti-Phishing Working Group, report phishing at apwg.org. Or lastly, you can file a complaint with the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. So this is an example of an email that is not legitimate. So this person is posing as the Bank of America. They detected unusual activity on your debit card, and they're saying for your protection, please log into your account here. And they say if no action is taken within 12 hours, a freeze will be placed on your account and you won't be able to access your checking. They also provide a link here to click on. So we can tell that this is fraud because they're asking for personal information. You can also usually detect strange formatting mistakes or an urgent or threatening tone. So like with this one, they're threatening you by saying a freeze will be placed on your account if you don't click this link. And they'll try to impersonate a familiar sender, which is Bank of America, which is legitimate, but they'll do it with an odd email address. So if you look at the very top of this picture, where it says reply to, you can see the email that this came from is at AOL.net. This is clearly just a random person who's trying to impersonate the Bank of America. So that's always a really good indicator if you check the email address, because it should be an official email address associated with the bank. And also keep an eye out for grammar or punctuation mistakes. That's also a clear indicator that it is not a legitimate request. So if you're ever in doubt, the moral of the story, do not click any links or attachments, because that is how you might get a virus on your personal device. So this is an example of someone getting a virus with harmful pop-ups. So it might be ads that are promising to delete viruses, protect privacy, remove harmful files, or just clean your registry. So they might alert you that your security software is out of date and your computer is in immediate danger. So an unfamiliar website that claims it ran a security scan, they can prompt you to then download a new software. So this is an example on the right-hand side here of a pop-up ad that you might get. So once again, do not click directly on any of the links included in there, because that is actually how you would get a virus, ironically. Um, don't even click the links, don't click no or cancel or even the X in the corner. This is a cool hack to avoid clicking on any of it. If you have a Windows computer, you can hold down the Control, Alt, and Delete keys all at once to open the task manager. So then you can select the browser from the list of running programs and click End Task so that you don't have to cancel out by clicking on anything. And similarly for Apple, you can press Option, Command, and Escape keys at the same time, and then select the browser, so like Safari, for example, in the list of programs, and click the Force Quit button. I also use the Force Quit button if my program, whatever it is just not loading and it's stuck. So that's another time that you can use the Force Quit option. So I will pause here for a moment if anybody wants to take a picture or write this down. Okay, so let's say worst case scenario, you do click on one of these links and now your computer's infected. So what do? Well, you should disconnect from the internet, so unplug the Ethernet cable or disconnect from the Wi-Fi to prevent any malware from spreading to other devices. Like we mentioned before, you should probably automatically change your password. Use a different secure computer or device to update the passwords for all of your accounts. You can also run antivirus scans. So you can update your antivirus and run a full scan. You can also use a separate clean computer to download a new antivirus program onto a USB, which is that little hard drive device, and you can install it on the infected device to run the antivirus scan. You can also monitor your credit report. So you can place a 90-day fraud alert on your credit report. through Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion with the numbers listed here. You can also report fraud. Once again, we mentioned this earlier, but you can file a complaint with the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. I will pause here just for a quick moment if you want to write down any of these phone numbers. Okay, also consider the age of your computer. If your computer is getting up there in age, it's over 5 years old, nobody wants to pay more for repairs than the price of a new computer. That just feels like a waste of money. So Angie's List says that systems 5 years or older are often worth replacing. This is an owner of a computer repair service, just to give you some reference of the shelf life of your computer. If your computer is operating efficiently and it's older than 5 years, that's great. But if it's not and it's deteriorating, then it's maybe time to consider replacing it if possible. Also, protect yourself on social media. I'm not sure if any of you here have social media accounts. You probably do. So I would recommend using two-factor authentication. So you can go into your social media settings and activate two-factor authentication to stop scammers from accessing your account, even if they have your password. This is a very secure way of logging in because you need a second way to authenticate that it's you logging in. So let's say you're logging into your Instagram, you have your passwords loaded already, but you'll have to approve the login from another device just to make sure that it's secure. You can also enable login alerts. So under security settings, you can have Facebook alert you if someone logs into your account from a new location. So I have this set up with my email. So it'll let me know if somebody, if it's usually me, but if I'm logging in from a different location on a different device, it'll let me know. It'll say like, is this you? If not, we can report it. Um, Also turn on your privacy settings. So on Facebook, you can limit who sees your posts, who can see your friends list, who can send you friend requests, who can tag you in photos. You have a lot of options to optimize your privacy. I would recommend making your account private if possible, just to reduce the chance of unfamiliar people reaching out to you that may not be legitimate. Also, remember to check the privacy policy and settings on a regular basis because they do often change. And be careful with third-party apps because some websites or just games or apps, they do let you sign up using another social media account, but it is important to note that this could give the makers of that website, game, or app, it gives them access to your private information, such as your friends list. So check what information you are allowing them to have access to if you use another account to sign up. They'll usually also say with like Google, for example, like Google wants to have access to, and it'll list out the things that they want access to. So if you're not comfortable with that, you can decline it or log into the website or app using another form of authentication. So you should also protect your data privacy with apps. Be mindful of permissions. I know that those agreements are usually very long and nobody actually wants to read it, but it is good practice to review the privacy policies and terms when you're agreeing to something, just because you never know exactly what you're agreeing to if you don't read through it fully. You can also control location tracking. So you can limit your location access to necessary apps, like your Maps app when you're trying to use your GPS. So like for example, Facebook doesn't necessarily need access to your location, so you can turn off location access for that app and others. So on an Android phone, you would go into settings, then you would go into apps, go to the app name, so Facebook, for example, and then go under permissions to change those settings. And on an iPhone, you would go to the settings, you would click on the app name, so Facebook again, and then you would turn off the location. You can disable tracking across apps, so you can choose to prevent apps from tracking your activity on other apps and websites. I believe it was recently signed into law that apps have to ask you, are we allowed to track across other devices? And you can say yes or no. I like to say no just to prevent that tracking, just to look out for myself. You can also delete unused apps. So you can remove apps you no longer need, to reduce your data collection, and just to free up storage, which is always a plus on your device. So, all of this to say, stay safe out there. We don't want anybody to be paranoid, but it is important to look out for yourself whenever possible and take advantage of these resources. And if you want to learn more about things that I shared tonight, you can order CUB's free guide called Internet Privacy: A Guide to Protecting Yourself Online at www.citizensutilityboard.org/telecom/. So I will pause here just for a moment for people to write that down if they would like to. I believe we can begin transitioning into our questions now. And if you have any additional questions that I cannot address for you tonight, please feel free to reach out to my email. It's zhuspen@citizensutilityboard.org, or you can search up www.citizensutilityboard.org for more general questions and resources. So let's take some time here for questions.
All right.
Let me
Thank
click on
you,
the chat.
Zoe, for all of those tips and contact information and the information on the FTC and do not call list. We're just going to go jump right into Q&A because we are getting a number of them through the Q&A and through the chat. I'm just going to go in the order that I received them. So the first question was, I don't know my internet speed. Do I have to call my carrier to find that out? Oh, Zoe, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I would say yes, it's probably worthwhile to call your carrier just so they can give you a straightforward answer on what your speed is. So I would recommend doing so if you are okay with it.
I also know I've done this on my computer. I just Google like internet speed test, and I don't know how accurate that is, but it can give you like a rough idea if you don't like obviously calling the carrier would probably be the most up-to-date accurate information. Um, Another question, I have been receiving 30 to 33 calls a day on my cell phone. Wow, that's a lot. I finally silenced all unknown numbers. How can I actually stop those calls? This person's already on the do not call list. Most of the calls do not leave a message. One time they were even talking to someone else. I could hear someone else on the line answer. I do receive calls a few days on my landline, and I've never answered any calls from a number I do not know.
That is very frustrating. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that would have been my first recommendation. Yeah, would be to be on the do not call list. So it sounds like you're already doing all the right things that you can do. But the fact that but you're still receiving those unknown number calls, it sounds like, which is really frustrating. I would say if you are willing to and you notice that the same spam caller keeps calling you over and over again, you can just block the individual number. That would be a hassle if you're getting a bunch still, so that's not necessarily the most effective solution. But besides the do not call list, that's really the main thing you can do to eliminate those unknown callers. And yeah, just like we talked about, never answer any of those calls when you don't know the person or number. They're all from different numbers. Okay. I could also take down your information if you're willing, and I can reach out to my team and see if they have any other suggestions considering the steps that you've already taken.
Maybe since these last couple call or questions are on robocalls, could you go to one of the slides where you list like the additional services just so it's on the screen while we're taking questions in case
Sure.
people want to like jot that down? Because one of the questions that came in is if we can get a copy or information from the slides. So we
Mhm.
are recording tonight's presentation and it will be posted to the library's YouTube page in 3 to 4 business days. It'll be up there indefinitely. So if you just Google Mount Prospect Public Library YouTube, it should be the first link on Google. And then you can find all of our program recordings listed there. So that's probably the best way to get access to the slides. Going to the Q&A questions, I've been hesitant to submit reviews online, whether that means a restaurant or an auto repair shop, etc., because of concerns about what I wrote ending up who knows where. And yet many people do write online reviews. Is my concern valid?
I think that your concern is valid. I think it depends on the website that is asking to leave a review. I know sites like Yelp, those are like pretty common sites to leave a review of a service or business. But if it seems like it's a suspicious ask or a site that doesn't feel authentic, then I would steer away from it if possible. But if it's a well-known app that has protections in place, then I think it would be okay to leave reviews. It really just depends on your comfort level.
Next question, how do I get rid of pop-ups? I'm not sure if they're referring in general or to like the scammy ones, maybe both.
I would say you can run the antivirus scans, to try and reduce pop-ups on your personal device. And then, like we talked about, when you do see them, because I think sometimes it's unavoidable, unfortunately, then make sure that you force quit out of whatever site that you're using. But yeah, I think running the antivirus scan, would help you reduce the amount of pop-up ads you're receiving. And make sure you don't click on them, because that might also, um, cause you to receive a virus and get more and more of those ads.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that not to click the X or the close. So that's a very good tip because like it's just instinct to want to click the X as soon as possible to get rid of it, but that's a good tip. So you mentioning the force quit option goes into our next question. Instead of control delete, can I just turn off the computer to reset it? Is that what force quit means? Or is that something different?
So force quitting is just shutting down that specific application that you had open. So let's say you have a MacBook and you get a pop-up ad, and you force quit out of Safari because that was the internet you were using to, see that ad. It would just force quit you out of Safari. It would not shut down your computer. So you can also just reset your computer, but we recommend just force quitting if possible because that really just addresses the problem without you having to restart your whole computer, which can be a bit of a hassle.
Next question, how do you stop unwanted text messages?
Certainly, I get these, especially during election season. I was getting so many unwanted phone numbers. I would say if it's somebody asking you for something, definitely do not respond. Sometimes they do allow you, though, to unsubscribe by replying stop. So I've done that before to stop receiving various messages, but obviously proceed with caution, and never give them any personal information. So that would be my recommendation. If they allow for an option to unsubscribe, do that if possible. Or you can just block the phone number too if they're bothering you.
Next question, does the do not call list block and track calls? Um, and then there's another part of the question, or is there no record of the call on your cell?
With the do not call, let me um I believe with the do not call, you'll still receive the call, like it will still be recorded, but like you won't get the notification. But I might have to double check that for you just to make sure I'm not giving you any false information.
Makes sense. Um, I heard, so this is my question actually.
Okay.
So I heard like a rumor or a myth, I don't know what you call it, that if you pick up a robocall and like talk to the person, because I know that's some people's like method of kind of like messing with the robocallers or whatever. Is it true that if you pick up a call and answer it, you're more likely to get more like robocalls?
I don't know if that's true or not, but we still recommend to not pick up just because they might try to convince you that they are legitimate and you just don't want to like worry yourself with the hassle of having to interact with them. So, I mean, I don't think that it necessarily increases the amount of those calls, but it's just best practice to avoid communicating with them because that is how people accidentally get scammed. I've answered one of those calls before, and I could immediately tell that like, they were not contacting the right person or they were just, a scam, bottom line, so I immediately hung up when I realized that they were not meaning to call me. So yeah, I would just say avoid picking up whenever possible.
That definitely makes sense. Doesn't look like we have any other questions. I'm just gonna wait a couple more moments just to see if anyone's typing furiously away. There is a comment. Thank you all so much for all the device safety rules in the US. So thank you, Zoe. So I just want to thank you, Zoe, so much for all these tips and tricks. And thank you, everyone, for coming and for asking all of your great questions. Again, this program is going to be recorded and posted to the library's YouTube page. So check back there if you want to get a refresher on the information. And I hope everyone has a good evening.